guys, if you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. All right, guys, I'm back, and it is Sunday, April 28th, and we do have some Q posts. Actually, they are from yesterday. There is none for today. Well, so far, anyway, there is none for today, but I did miss the post from yesterday, and I do apologize, but we're going to get to those now, and if time serves me well, then I'm going to go on and get into some Q-related news. So let me get out of this infinity screen because I know that drives many of you crazy. So let me get in over here, and I just wanted to say that I've got a little bit of a different setup here. I keep tinkering around with the settings because, as you know, I have a new computer and I've wanted to get everything set up perfectly for you guys in terms of sound and visuals and so forth. Now, I feel like you're right in my face here. If this is too close for you all, then let me know and I'll back it up some. But yeah, it feels it feels very comfortable the way I've got it set up, but let me know if it's comfortable for you. All right, well, let's get into the Q post because we do have some to go over and they are very interesting. There may not be a lot of them, but what we do have contains a lot of information. So here is the first one from yesterday, April 27th, and it says the following: truth, transparency, and equal justice under the law. Drain the swamp. Swamp, of course, being highlighted, bolded, and in kill brackets, and we know that the swamp is about ready to go down. They have been drained, and you know, if you ever seen a river dredged or a canal drained, and as the water level goes down, the garbage appears, out of nowhere, and you think, well, gosh, I didn't know all that crap was down there. But once the swamp is drained, of course, then you see all the creatures that are lying beneath, and that's where we are right now. And they are being revealed because as the water level goes down, more and more is being revealed, and we are moving into a period of justice and prosecution. Well, prosecution and then justice. So this is good news. We can see it. Anybody now that says nothing is happening is really not paying attention. I mean, severely not paying attention or living under a rock. Q says, united we stand. We, the people. Where we go one, we go all. Q. That is pretty self-explanatory. It doesn't need much decoding at all. So let's move on to the next one. And this is interesting as well. He gives us a link to theguardian.com, and we're going to go out there right now and take a look at this. And what he says is soon to be a household name. Well, who's about to become a household name? Well, let's look. And the interesting thing about this is over 2 years old, this article. So for him, her, whoever, we know that Q is a team of people and not just one person, but I always refer to Q as a he. Anyway, Q, refers us to this article, but it's more than 2 years old. And how do we know that? Because it says right here, this article is more than 2 years old. Yeah, it doesn't take a brain surgeon. But anyway, it says, a GCHQ chief, Robert Hannigan, quits. Now, this was over 2 years ago. So why is this important now? Well, we're going to find out. Hannigan oversaw a more open approach at GCHQ after the Snowden revelations exposed mass surveillance by the agency. The director of GCHQ, Robert Hannigan, is to stand down early for personal reasons, mainly health issues involving his wife and other family members. Now, how many of you actually believe that the reason that he stood down or retired, resigned, what have you, is because of family issues? No, I'm not buying that either. Hannigan only took over the UK surveillance agency, so okay, surveillance agency, in November 2014 to oversee a more open approach after revelations by the National Security Agency whistleblower Edward Snowden put GCHQ on the defensive in 2013. His sudden resignation, he informed staff just hours before making this decision public, prompted speculation that it might be related to British concerns over shared intelligence with the U.S. in the wake of Donald Trump becoming president. Aha! Well, I think we're getting closer to the truth here. But the GCHQ press release stressed his decision was exclusively for family reasons, as well as his ill wife. Hannigan has 2 elderly parents to look after. He will remain in post until a successor is appointed. I think all of us understand about having elderly parents or ill family members, but something tells me that that is not the case, or Q would not be referring us to have a look at it. And here, an official tweet from GCHQ, we're sorry to announce that Robert Hannigan, our director since 2014, has decided to step down as head of GCHQ. In a press statement, he said, I have been lucky enough to have some extraordinary roles in public service over the past 20 years, from Northern Ireland to Number 10, the Cabinet Office, and the Foreign Office, but they have all demanded a great deal of my ever-patient and understanding family, and now is the right time for a change in direction. Applications will be invited from within GCHQ and elsewhere in government. The salary last year was between 160,000 euros and 165,000 euros. Excuse me. I just ate before I came on here, and I shouldn't do that, because then I always imagine that I have things in my teeth and that people are saying, what is that in her teeth? But that's probably not the case. Anyway, at GCHQ, Hannigan has led a push to make the agency more transparent, a process that included a major speech in the U.S. last year on encryption and tech companies. He also pressed to find out GCHQ at the forefront of digital, or to try to put GCHQ at the forefront of digital challenges, leading to the creation of the National Cybersecurity Center in October last year. His resignation letter to the Foreign Office, which is responsible for both I don't know why I have trouble with that, GCHQ and the Secret Intelligence Service, better known as MI6, Hannigan said, as you know, I have also initiated the greatest internal change within GCHQ for 30 years, and I feel that we are now well on the way to being fit for the next generation of security challenges to the UK in the digital age. After a good deal of thought, I have decided that this is the right time to move on and allow someone else to lead GCHQ through its next phase. The Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson, replied, praising Hannigan for setting the groundwork for a major transformation of cyber defenses. Hannigan's background was not initially in intelligence. Born in Gloucester in 1965 and brought up in Yorkshire, he has been a high-flying civil servant at the Northern Ireland office, where he was head of communications and later political director. He was involved in the peace process, credited with coming up with the idea for a diamond-shaped table in order to get over objections by the opposing sides about seating arrangements. He transferred to London, where he became involved in a series of intelligence jobs, including defense and liaison within the U.S., before going on to GCHQ, where he worked for 6 months as part of the handover before taking control. At the time, GCHQ, in spite of its secrets spilled by Snowden, remained the most secretive of the 3 intelligence agencies, the others being MI6 and MI5, but Hannigan expanded the press team, invited more journalists to visit GCHQ, and encouraged a stream of news stories aimed at bringing the agency into the public eye. In the first week in office, he created controversy with a column published in the Financial Times accusing U.S. technology companies of becoming the command and control networks of choice for terrorists. In March last year, he softened his criticism in a speech to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, calling for a new relationship between the intelligence agencies and the tech companies, part of a campaign to try to secure the help of companies in providing access to supposedly encrypted messages. Now, I don't know how necessary it is. Well, we're almost to the end there anyway. So it is understood that the explanation for his sudden departure was reinforced in an internal message to GCHQ staff, acknowledging that many members faced enormous personal pressures and that he had opted to make his family a priority. Okay, well, now, you and I don't think, would be even looking, well, first of all, we wouldn't be looking at this article if Q had not directed us to it. Second of all, you or I, having read this article, even had Q not directed us to it, and had we read it for ourselves, we would not have any idea of its significance to the overall narrative, the real one, the one that is being laid out by Q, and that we're seeing take place day by day, unraveled in the news. Well, let's go back and see what Q says. He tells us that this name, his name, Hannigan's name, is about to become a household name. Well, that's really something, because it takes a lot to be a household name. And I really, until now, have not really heard of Robert Hannigan. Probably because this was prior to Q, and, I wasn't paying attention to all this stuff prior to Q, to tell you the truth. So, Robert Hannigan is the former head of the UK GCHQ and MI6, and he resigned, and this is important, right after Trump was elected. Nothing suspicious there, or is there? This article is more than 2 years old, as I stated, but Q is letting us know, I believe, that Hannigan is about to become a household name. Well, he is telling us that there's no, I think, about it. That's exactly what he's telling us. His name is about to be a household name. Why? Well, in looking at this, I think it's pretty obvious. He was probably the deep state operative who orchestrated the spying on the Trump campaign through Five Eyes. So, yeah, no doubt he's about to become a household name. And why did he resign right after Trump was elected? He probably knew that he knew. Do you think? Don't know. One thing is for sure, we're about to know, because Q said his name's about to be a household name. So we're going to find out. But my bet is that he is the one that orchestrated the spying. He was a deep state operative. And he orchestrated the spying on Trump campaign in the UK through Five Eyes. That's what I think. That's what I think that this is very clearly pointing to, as far as I'm concerned. But time will tell, as always. Future proves past. Now, let's come up to the next one, and we've got this. We have a picture that's been supplied by an anon, and Q is making reference to it here, and it is a picture of a warrior. It says, "The warrior." A warrior is the protector of his family and those in need. A warrior is the guardian of the ways of honor and courage. A warrior will not put his own desires above what is right. Above all, a warrior is always motivated by his utmost duty. Now, beneath this, Q has obviously referenced this. Excuse me 1 second. I think I have a sesame seed stuck in my throat. All right, let's move down here, and Q says here, D-class is coming. Well, okay, we know that. We know that D-class is coming, but Q goes on to tell us more. D-class pre or post IG report. And IG, of course, is Inspector General report. That is Horowitz report. And notice how they are already starting to demonize Horowitz in the mainstream media. I've noticed that, and I'm sure you have as well. I think that's very interesting and very telling. And then he says Comey, and it is bolded and in kill brackets. We know that it's not going to go well for Comey, not at all. Comey pre or post IG report. C comes before D, Q. So the D class will come after the release of the Comey report and prior to the Inspector General report. So it's going to come after the Comey report. Now let's look at, now Lisa McCrowley had put this on Twitter the other day, and I noticed it on Twitter, and I actually had clipped it and put it in my Q-related news section. But here it is here. It says, Joe, and I thank you guys for letting me know that I was not pronouncing his name correctly. Like I said, and I've explained this before, I don't get the news. I don't have cable, so I read almost everything. So sometimes I just don't get the pronunciation right, and I do appreciate you guys that are nice and you know, correct me without being rude. I really appreciate that. Actually, I never get offended with being corrected at all, but I believe the correct way is DeGenova, or DeGenova. Is that correct? DeGenova? Okay, well, let me know. Okay, says there will be a report out on Comey in 2 weeks. Now, this was just the other day that I clipped that, so that's not long. That's not far away at all. 2 weeks goes by like that. In 2 weeks, there will be a bombshell. He said there will be criminal referrals. Now, this is a report out on Comey in 2 weeks. Okay, so, and Lisa May Crowley has also said, confirmation, Joe DeGenova saying a Comey bombshell report coming out in 2 weeks. We know the Office of the Inspector General report due out end of May, and now Media, she calls them, is already discrediting Horowitz, a Hussein appointee, and they are already demonizing him. The 9th of February drop seemed to suggest D-Class would precede the OIG report. Q just said C before D. So Comey, the Comey report will come out first. That is within 2 weeks. Okay, so this is the time frame we're looking at. 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, the Comey report's going to come out. Then the D-Class will happen, and then the Office of the Inspector General report, then Horowitz's report. So C comes before D, Comey before D-Class, and then the OIG report will be after the D-Class. So it says timeline set, popping the popcorn, the booms keep dropping. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. So that is what we have to look forward to. 2 weeks Comey, then the D-Class, and then the Office of the Inspector General report, which is due out end of May. So, you know, I think things are going to happen pretty quickly then, because 2 weeks, and then, you know, we're almost at the end of April. So 2 weeks will be mid-May, and then the D-Class will come out, and then the Office of the Inspector General report, Horowitz's report. So interesting. Things are just going to keep popping from now till the end of May. And it'll be interesting where we're sitting at the end of May and how we are viewing things at that time. I'm really interested to see that because, you know, I think, you know, now, from now till then, it's going to be like light years away in terms of the knowledge that we gain. I really think that. We've been gaining knowledge slowly over the last year and a half, year and 3/4 from Q, and it has set a very good foundation for us. But now, you know, the deeper the foundation, the higher the building, right? So we've been digging and digging and digging and digging and digging and digging and digging this great big foundation and building this foundation upon which everything else is going to stand, because we would never have had a hope of understanding all this if we had not built that foundation. And Q built that foundation, caused us to dig and dig, and we do know that. That is a principle. The deeper the foundation, the higher the building. So it's gonna be light years, seriously, from where we are now. By the end of the month in May, that's what I really believe is going to happen. We're going to have just a huge download of information, and it's going to be it's going to be difficult because those that have not followed from the first may get confused, and hopefully those of us that have been bringing this will be able to kind of break it down, hopefully, for those that feel overwhelmed. At least that's what I'm hoping. There are lots of people doing this and lots of people that are very good at it. So I'm definitely not the only one by any stretch of the imagination. All right, let's go on to the next one. And we've got this. And Q says, fast forward 1 year. And he's got a link here that we're going to go out to in a moment. And he says, rewind 1 year. Bigger story yet to be discovered. Leak investigations go both ways. Republican plus Democrat. A house needs to be constantly cleaned. You can say that again. I think any of us that do housework know that a house constantly needs to be cleaned, and just because you cleaned it a few days ago doesn't mean that it's clean now. So yeah, absolutely. Let's go take a look at what Q is wanting us to show us here.
Well, it's interesting that Simpson is at the heart of the dossier, and that the dossier played a mighty role in not only going after Carter Page, but in much of Adam and Eric Swalwell's quest to find collusion. That he would, in fact, during that exact same conversation time frame, be in conversation, or appear to be in conversation with the guy who's principally responsible for the dossier.
Look,
let's come down here. Adam Schiff, Glenn Simpson, and their Forrest Gump-like encounter in Aspen. And this by John Solomon, who we know we can trust. The new House Intelligence Committee chairman, Adam Schiff, has proven to be his party's most effective antagonist towards President Trump. And now, with the new powers of being chairman, he is drawing both new weapons and new scrutiny. Sometimes such scrutiny inevitably turns to questions of hypocrisy, which brings us to the issue of some photographs taken at the prestigious Aspen Security Conference last July. They show Schiff meeting at the event with Fusion GPS founder Glenn Simpson, one of the key and most controversial figures of the Russian collusion scandal. Both men insisted to me through spokesmen that they met only briefly last July. At the time of the encounter, Simpson was an important witness in the House Intelligence Committee probe who had given sworn testimony about alleged but still unproven collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign. And let's move down here. Simpson ran the firm hired by Hillary Clinton's campaign and the Democratic Party to find dirt on Trump in Moscow. He employed retired British intelligence operative Christopher Steele, whose infamous and unverified dossier became the main evidence for the FBI's probe of the Trump campaign, particularly the surveillance warrant against Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. And by the time of the meeting, the House Intelligence Committee had already received evidence from a senior Justice Department official, Bruce Orr, that called into question Simpson's testimony to lawmakers. Specifically, Simpson claimed he had not begun meeting with Orr until after Thanksgiving 2016, well after the FBI had begun investigating Trump-Russia collusion and after the presidential election in which Simpson's client, Clinton, lost to Trump. But Orr provided compelling evidence, including calendar notations, testimony, and handwritten notes showing that Simpson met with him in August 2016, well before the election and during a time when Steele was helping the FBI start an investigation into Trump. When confronted with the Aspen conference, photos of Schiff in sports coat and open-neck dress shirt and Simpson wearing casual attire, representatives for both men tried to minimize their discussion, insisting nothing substantive about the Russia case was discussed. Do you believe that? I don't. In the summer of 2018, Mr. Simpson attended a media-sponsored social event where he exchanged small talk with Representative Schiff and many other people who were in attendance. Fusion GPS said in a statement to me, the conversation between the two was brief and did not cover anything substantive. There was no subsequent contact between Mr. Simpson and Representative Schiff. The congressman's response was even more vague. The chairman did not have any pre-planned meeting with Glenn Simpson, and any conversation with him at the Aspen conference would have been brief and social in nature, Schiff spokesman Patrick Boland said. Translation, this was just a Forrest Gump-like moment in which the Democrats' chief defender of the dossier and the man whose firm produced it met serendipitously. There is nothing illegal or technically improper about a congressman meeting intentionally or unintentionally with a witness in an investigation, at least not under the law or the House Intelligence Committee's rules, but Schiff created a far higher standard 2 years ago when he demanded that his Republican counterpart on the committee, then Chairman Devin Nunes, be investigated for having meetings with National Security Council officials at the Trump White House without telling the committee. Schiff's attack led Nunes to temporarily recuse himself from the Russia probe. Schiff assailed Nunes' contacts with a source outside the committee confines as a dead-of-night excursion and said it called into question the impartiality of the inquiry because the committee wasn't informed. I believe the public cannot have the necessary confidence that matters involving the president's campaign or transition team can be objectively investigated or overseen by the chairman, Schiff said at the time. But how did Schiff meet his own standards? Boland declined to say if his boss told the committee about the Simpson contact. My guess is he didn't. But both GOP and Democratic officials on the committee, including some lawmakers, said there is no evidence that Schiff disclosed his contact with Simpson to committee members. I don't know if they're under any obligation to disclose it, but certainly if we were conspiracy theories, the way that my Democrat colleagues appear to be, we could weave an awful tale into that and weave all kinds of nonsense about it. Representative Mike Conaway, the Texas Republican who took over the Russia probe when Nunes recused himself, told Hill TV. Had the tables been turned and I had been seen at a circumstance like that, my guess is Schiff would have demanded I had a full conversation as to what I did, he added. Conaway touched on another observation. Simpson has become a Gump-like character who keeps showing up in so many different places in the Russia scandal. He's the owner of the company that was paid by Clinton for the Steele dossier, the guy who hired Steele to create the dossier, the one who met with Orr at the Justice Department, who pitched reporters writing Trump dirt at the end of the campaign, and who met with Russian women and an American lobbyist at the heart of the infamous June 2016 Trump Tower meeting. And then he shows up with Schiff in Aspen. Nothing suspicious about that, is there? No. It's interesting that Simpson is at the heart of the dossier, and the dossier played a mighty role in not only going after Carter Page, but in much of Adam and Eric Swalwell's quest to find collusion that Schiff would, in fact, in that exact same conversation or time frame, be in conversation or appear to be in conversation with the guy who's principally responsible for the dossier, Conaway said. Whatever happened in Aspen won't stay in Aspen much longer. Expect Republicans in Washington to launch some questions at the House's new Intelligence Committee chairman. Yeah, so what happened in Aspen won't stay in Aspen. Not like Vegas. I doubt what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas either, to tell you the truth. All right, so let's go back and take a look at what Q is talking about here. He's saying, rewind 1 year, bigger story yet to be discovered. So there's a bigger story. Now let's look at what the oppressor Lieber has to say. I really do respect his decodes. He can be found on Twitter and also on the website Disclosure Italia. Q reminding us of an article by John Solomon exposing Representative Adam Schiff for meeting with Fusion GPS criminal Glenn Simpson about a year ago. Adam Schiff, little Adam Schiff, tried to blow it off like it was no big deal. He didn't consider that POTUS had a FISA warrant on him. Excuse me for one moment because Sammy is looking like he is going to try and chew on my computer cord, and that would be catastrophic. Literally, catastrophic. It would be a catastrophe. And now Sammy tries to drink my water. You're gaining your own fan club, Sammy. Yes, you are. You're gaining your own fan club. All right. You sit there and don't chew anything. Yes, you can lick your lips. And now he's cleaning himself, so I think we're safe. All right. Now, where was I? Little Adam Schiff tried to blow it off like it was no big deal. He didn't consider that POTUS had a FISA warrant on him. Remember, FISA goes both ways. And NSA was recording his conversations with Glenn Simpson. Undoubtedly, Schiff was leaking classified information, or classified intel rather, to Simpson regarding the investigation into Fusion GPS and other discussions related to plans to take out or impeach POTUS. Q is pointing out that the Democrats were not the only ones leaking intel. Republicans were leaking as well. They were just a leaky bunch. A house needs to be constantly cleaned, and yes it does. All right, you can ask anybody that has a clean house. They clean it constantly. I know, because I am fastidiously clean. All right, let's go on. I'm just keeping an eye on Sammy there. Yeah, I've got to keep the cord safe. He's getting much better, but I don't put temptation in his way either. And he's bored right now, so he's thinking, computer cords, yummy. And also, thank you, all you guys. You guys keep sending me tips and sending me tips and sending me tips, and thank you. However, I have tried everything known to man, and some things unknown to man, to deter him. And let me tell you, there is no deterring this cat. There is no deterring this cat. The only thing I can do to deter him is to lock up my cords, which I do. So thank you very much for your suggestions, but I have tried, I think, all of them. So there you go. All right, let's get back to business here. Okay, this is the last post from yesterday and the last Q post, unless he has posted while I've been talking. And this shows a link to an article by Sarah Carter, another person that we can trust. And let's go take a look at that now. Then, well, let's take a look at that first and then come back to see what Q is wanting us to know. Look at how fast this computer is. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? It's just a beautiful thing. All right, breaking. FBI texts show agents discussed recruiting White House sources to spy for Bureau. Senior Republican chairman submitted a letter Thursday to Department of Justice Attorney General William Barr, revealing new texts from former FBI Special Agent Peter Strzok to his paramour, FBI Attorney Lisa Page, showing the pair had discussed attempts to recruit sources within the White House to allegedly spy on the Trump administration. Wow. Yeah. So this is a senior Republican chairman submits a letter Thursday to Attorney General Barr, revealing that they found new texts, okay, that Strzok and Page tried to recruit people within the White House to spy on the Trump administration. Interesting. Senate Appropriations Committee Chairman Charles Grassley, Senate Homeland Security Commission Chairman Ron Johnson revealed the information in a 3-page letter. The text had been obtained by SarahCarter.com Tuesday, and information regarding the possible attempt to recruit White House sources has been divulged by several sources to this news site last week. Now, the texts and sources reveal that Strzok had one significant contact within the White House. And you're not going to believe who it is. Or maybe you will. Vice President Mike Pence, Chief of Staff. That's right. Vice President Mike Pence, Chief of Staff, Joshua Pitcock. whose wife was working as an analyst for Strzok on the FBI's investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of a private server. A senior White House official told this news site that Pitcock's wife recused herself from the Clinton investigation as soon as Pence and Trump became the Republican nominees in July 2016. A senior law enforcement official told SarahCarter.com that Pitcock's wife no longer worked under Strzok after she recused herself from the Clinton investigation. Excuse me, he's trying now on the other side to get my audio cord. It's a full-time job. It's a full-time job. All right. So, I'm sorry. These are the pitfalls of listening to my channel. Cats. All right. So let me see now. Okay. The course of our oversight work, we have reviewed certain text messages that may show potential attempts by the FBI to conduct surveillance of President-elect Trump's transition team, the letter states, in text messages exchanged between former FBI Special Agent Peter Strzok and former FBI Attorney Lisa Page. The two discussed the possibility of developing potential relationships at a November 2016 FBI briefing for presidential transition team staff. Specifically, it appears they discussed sending the CI guy to assess an unnamed person's demeanor, but were concerned because it might be unusual for him to attend. The senators are investigating if any of these communications and the precise purpose of any attempt to develop relationships with Trump or VP Mike Pence transition team staff are not immediately clear. Were these efforts done to gain better communication between the respective parties, or were the briefings used as intelligence gathering operations? Well, I think we know the answer to that. Further, did any such surveillance activities continue beyond the inauguration? And in the event they were those activities subject to proper predication? The letter states. Any improper FBI surveillance activities that were conducted before or after the 2016 election must be brought to light and properly addressed. The text. A few weeks after the presidential election, Mr. Strzok and Ms. Page discussed the logistics for the briefing. Mr. Strzok and Ms. Page said the following. Strzok, talking with Bill. Do we want Joe to go with Evanina instead of Charlie for a variety of reasons? Strzok is referring to former FBI Assistant Director of Counterintelligence Division Bill Presap. Joe is referencing FBI Special Agent Joe Pientka, who interviewed former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn in January of 2017, and Evanina is in reference to William Evanina, National Counterintelligence and Security Center. Page, not sure. Would it be unusual to have his name show up again? Maybe another agent, another team? Strzok, or he's the CI guy. Same might make sense. He can assess if there are any news, questions, or different demeanor. If Katie's husband is there, he can see if there are people we can develop for potential relationships. Now, what he's talking about there, potential relationships, are he's wanting to develop these potential relationships for the purpose of spying and referring information back to the FBI, or, people like himself within the FBI. Page, should I ask Andy about it or Bill Presap? Want to reach out for Andy McCabe? Strzok, I told him I'm sure we could ask you to make the swap if we thought it. FBI seeks sources in White House. There was one major connection in the White House, according to documents, White House sources and the FBI. One of FBI's top counterintelligence analysts, who was personally working for former FBI Special Agent Strzok, had a spouse working directly for Vice President Mike Pence. I don't think Mike Pence is going to be around in 2020. Do you? I really don't. And have you noticed that it always says Trump 2020? Never says Trump Pence. So who's he going to have for his VP? I don't think it's going to be Pence. I really don't. I have an idea, but I'm not going to burden you with it. Okay. The FBI asked, okay, the White House, let me see, where are we now? Let's get to the, you know what, let's skip through this and get to the meat of all this, okay? Because really, I'm not doing this any justice. Let's get to the meat. Okay, Strzok asked VP Chief of Staff's wife. So, the Pence, his Chief of Staff's wife, Strzok asked her to find people to serve as spies to provide intel to corrupt members of the FBI so that they could later use it to take down Trump. That's all. It all boiled down into a little nutshell. This ties into the setup of Flynn. Remember the falsifications of the 302s, the falsification of the 302s. Flynn will be, this is what I believe, Flynn will be exonerated through evidence that proves he was set up, and we know he was set up. Now, this is what Q says. After reading that, he says chain of command, chain of custody, Pence, Chief of Staff, plus wife, FBI's 302s, FISA, spy, Flynn, will newly discovered evidence by Attorney General Barr, Southern District of New York, free Flynn? Well, that's not a question. That's not a question. He's telling us that newly discovered evidence by AG Barr, Southern District of New York, is going to free Flynn. That is what he's telling us. And it is alarming that Strzok had the nerve to ask the wife of Pence's Chief of Staff to spy and to find people that would be amenable to spy and provide intel to corrupt members of the FBI who could use that intel to take down Trump. Alarming, isn't it? Surprising? Not after everything we've learned. No, it's not. It's not. But that is the Q post. That brings us up to date with the Q post. Now, what I'm going to do next, I'm going to get this uploaded and I'm going to come back with some Q related news. And I think that you will find it all very interesting indeed. I would be highly surprised if you didn't. So thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate it. I appreciate your comments. And I appreciate your suggestions as well. Believe it or not, I do. Because most of you, when you're making a suggestion, you're not rude about it. You just say, well, could you do this or could you look into that or whatever. And I do appreciate that. I really do. I never take it, you know, in a negative way unless, you know, there's a couple people that can, that, you know, but it's very rare, very, very rare. None of you regular guys. All right. Thank you so much. I will talk to you, hopefully see you in a bit. I'll be here. Hope you will be too. And if you can't be here, then it'll be up there on YouTube for you to watch whenever you're free. So I'll talk to you guys later. I hope you're having a great night and continue to have a great night. And remember to always seek the truth because deception bites. Good night.